Hello, fellow HubSpotters. This is Emma with Kiwi Creative, and today we're talking about lead scoring. We'd all love if every lead that we ever encountered fit into our ideal customer profile, or they all requested to be contacted right away. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. But with lead scoring, you can actually monitor leads that aren't quite as enthusiastic and reach out at the right time. HubSpot's lead scoring feature is actually just a regular old calculation property. Based on your predetermined attributes, lead scoring will add or detract points from a contact. The benefits of lead scoring is that it allows HubSpot to do the work and monitor your slow burn leads. And then with the help of a workflow, will actually notify you when a lead appears to be sales ready based on their behavior and engagement with your site and content. So those leads that don't request to be contacted right away, that's all right. HubSpot will keep an eye on them for you so a member of your team doesn't have to. So what we're talking about specifically today is the lead score property that you have to set up, not the predictive lead score field that HubSpot AI populates, okay? The lead scoring field is available in all hubs, but only pro or enterprise tiers. So if you're free or starter, this won't apply to you. Here are a few things to keep in mind as you begin thinking this through. Number one, once you publish your lead scoring field, it will automatically and retroactively update all the contacts in your CRM. So some contacts may suddenly have a ton of points. Some will have negative points. Will this affect your lists, your workflows, your Salesforce inclusion list? Number two, another thing to keep in mind is what then? Once you establish your lead scoring, then what? Do you want contacts with a certain number of points to automatically progress to the next life cycle stage or alert a member of your sales team? What's the whole punchline of having these points? And then the final thing to remember is that nothing is written in stone. And as a matter of fact, it's best practice to routinely reevaluate your scoring model to determine if you're handing out too many points or if you're missing the right moment to reach out because you're not giving enough points. At Kiwi Creative, we focus on three types of scoring attributes: firmographics, behavioral, and negative. For each type of attribute, the best place to start is to consider what your current customers and opportunities have in common. So how do you decide what info and behavior should be included in your model? Talk to your sales and your service team. Those are the folks that are working with leads and opportunities and customers every single day and can help you determine the commonalities that you should be watching out for: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Below this video, I've linked an example of the lead scoring matrix we use to help our clients identify the following attributes. So for firmographics, that breaks down into demographics and company info. Is your target audience in the manufacturing industry? Do they get more points? Is your ideal customer the CIO or director? Do you only do business in certain geographies? Should you hand out points to the US, but maybe not Europe? Regarding your behavioral category, did most of your current deals or customers download the same piece of content? Maybe that's an indication that a lead is showing sales readiness. Or did most of them request a demo? Do they usually visit the same landing page? Not only do those attributes indicate interest, it could indicate fit as well. Just as importantly is the negative attributes category. What attributes do lost deals and customers that aren't really good fit or leads that are dead in the water share? Maybe if your email domain contains .edu, that indicates a student, not the right fit. Maybe contacts that visit your career page on your website aren't the folks that you want your sales guys calling up. Once you determine your attributes, you can actually start clicking buttons and building your lead score. Something I'll leave you with before we get into our demo is that there is no correct number of points that your contact needs to hit before being valid. Whatever best fits your business process, that's correct. So if you only need a couple behaviors to indicate sales readiness, it's perfectly fine to have 10 points push the lead to the next stage of your process versus 100. So let's dive into the actual button pushing exercise of it all. I'm here on my CRM dashboard. You can see that none of my contacts have a score. Well, surprise, I never set one up, right? If I visit the settings cog, and in the left-hand column, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to properties, and this is a contact property. So a lot of folks think lead scoring is some magical feature hidden within the bowels of the HubSpot administrative dashboard. It's not. It's actually HubSpot score. and it's right there in your contact properties. So we'll simply edit that, and you'll notice this score has nothing. No positive, no negative, nothing. So we can go ahead and add our criteria. Remember, we've already determined our criteria based on firmographic, behavior, and negative attributes. We've talked to the sales team, the service team, and we've determined, hey, these items, this list of criteria indicate a sales-ready lead. That's the whole punchline of building a lead score, right? We're monitoring these leads so members of your team don't have to manually watch them. And this is how HubSpot will raise its hand after a lead has done a little bit of digging on your site with your content, as opposed to simply filling out a form and saying, contact me, right? So we see here, we have all these radio buttons. You'll probably recognize this very similar list from when you build workflows, right? When you're adding criteria for your enrollment trigger. But in this case, I always like to start with firmographic so I don't get confused and mixed up. So I'll simply say, if the country is equal to United States, that indicates to me it's a better fit for my ideal customer profile. I'll apply the filter and I can change the score. You can keep everything ones and just kind of like really desirable behaviors or traits 2s, 3s, or you can make this 10. I mean, your score can hit 10 or 1,000, whatever best works for you. There's not a correct number. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that at 1. I can clone this trait. I can also simply add another one. And as you notice too, in that actions dropdown, you can also delete attributes if you're like, oh, never mind, that's not working. So perhaps I'll put in another firmographic. In this instance, tell you what, I'm going to use my persona. Oh, you know what? This is a demo portal. I don't think it's in there. I'll say job title is equal to any of CIO, IT director. I'm pretending I like the IT department for my demo portal, right? IT manager. Okay. And I can say that's also 1 point. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and clone this. You notice populated right underneath. When I edit it, I can say contains any of, so maybe I can catch some stragglers, information technology, right? Any job title that includes information technology. Sure. All right, maybe that's all I need for firmographic. I can add a new criteria. And this is where it starts getting, you're having to be thoughtful about what assets you have out there, right? I can say form submissions. So maybe it's not call me today, please, I'm raising my hand, but maybe we can say, oh, they submitted one of my forms, and you can specify what page. So if you use a singular contact us form on many landing pages, you can specify, oh, I know if they submitted on the pricing landing page, that's more valuable for me versus someone that says contact us on the careers page. I can also refine the condition by the number of times. So did they visit your site at most 5 times, exactly 3 times, things like that. I can also refine by date, and this can get really valuable. HubSpot does not really love when we try to make someone go backwards for leads, lifecycle stages. Similarly, the same with lead score. So short of you kind of creating these workarounds that take away points after a certain amount of time, you can simply say, they exhibited this behavior, they submitted my example inbound form, less than 30 days ago. So potentially them doing it 30 days ago and maybe downloading a piece of content is indicating sales readiness, right? There's no tried and true exact formula. Maybe this, I give a few more points to, and I can hit set, okay? I can continue down this row. You'll notice we can look at additional contact properties, and we can say things like marketing email, open date, right? Has it been recently? How many marketing emails have they clicked? That's usually a good metric. They're clicking, they're hitting the buttons, they're following your calls to action. We can also say things like they've viewed certain pages. This can be an external site. It can also be your landing page. We can also say they interacted with our social ads or our Google ads. So this is where we can kind of get into that behavior that's indicating, once again, sales readiness, right? Delete this one. And then we're going to head over. Remember, we have that third type, negative attributes. And that's in its own column here. You'll notice we have positive, Here's all the good stuff we want to track. Here's the negative. Here's where we're going to detract points. So the example I gave prior was if the page view contact is viewed containing careers. Maybe the URL contains careers. Well, they might be a great hire, but not a great contact for sales to call. And if it's someone you really want to knock out of the running for your lead scoring, give them a large negative number. So 50 points are being taken away if you go to my careers page. Don't want sales to call you. I can also say if the company headquarter location is somewhere where I potentially don't do business, right? So I don't do business in Canada. Those lovely folks in Canada, right? And if you're in Canada, well, you're not the right fit for my business, okay? So no points for you. So once we have those negative attributes, right, and that should be a hefty enough number, unless, of course, the behavior's not a deal breaker, right? We could save that. And once we save this score field, like I mentioned before, it's going to kick in right away. So if I visit my contacts now, we got some folks that have 1 point, right? So our lead score was really minimal. We didn't, for the purpose of demonstration, didn't add a ton of attributes. But, some of these folks, they're a no-go on our list, right? So now what we can start talking about is, okay, can I make a workflow that will automatically let somebody know? Because what's the value of getting 100 points if no one does anything about it? So we are going to make a contact-based workflow. And the trigger for this workflow can be, of course, depending on your process, contact properties, because, of course, HubSpot score is a contact property. It's not some secret thing behind the curtain, right? And I'm going to say this score is greater than or equal to 1. So potentially I want a range, right? If you have 1,000,000 points, I'm not going to say you're MQL, but maybe if you have between 1 and I'll say HubSpot score is greater than 1, and maybe I'll put a range. HubSpot score is less than 10. So everything 1 to 9. Okay, so that's my trigger in this instance. And I'm going to save it. And what I'll do now is I can actually set my lifecycle stage property if you'd like, if that's helpful for you guys. Potentially, maybe your Salesforce inclusion list says anyone that's an MQL pushover, right? Maybe 1 to 9 points indicates MQL. We're going to want that updated so they can push over. So I'll say, okay, these contacts, I'm going to go ahead and set them to MQL. Now, of course, that's considering they're either a subscriber or a lead. If they're a customer, we're not going to bump them back to marketing qualified lead. You can't do that via workflow, right? So we'll save that. So, okay, I set the property. And you know what? I also want to go ahead and I want to either send an internal email notification or maybe create a task for the appropriate salesperson to follow up. And I'll say new MQL that needs follow-up. Okay. And I'll say, I always like including some info. So that way, when my sales rep sees this, it's very easy for them to go ahead and operate directly from their inbox if they prefer. And I'll just go ahead and use some personalization tokens. That way it'll automatically update with the data. A human doesn't have to go in there and do it, right? That's the whole story, is we don't want to be manually doing this. It's not sustainable. Email, phone number, okay. And we will have that assigned to the existing owner, right? So that little quick run through was an example of the 3 types of attributes you could be considering when building your lead score. A few of the limitations, some of those hangups you have to think of and keep in mind, and always try to think sustainably. If your business does great and makes millions of dollars this year and hires 20 new people, can your lead score keep up? Or conversely, if you streamline, will you be inundated, right? And then, of course, what you can do once you have that score.